So in today's session, we are going to cover up next steps after gain staging that we did in last session. So without wasting much of time, let's quickly get into that. I have thrown a utility on master and you can see gain is plus 6 dBs, bass is at mono at 120 Hertz. This is plus 6 dB so that it's audible on YouTube. Now let's quickly give it a listen and we'll start with basic EQing on the groups. Like we don't need much of the lows on the melodies and similar things, just to give each kind of sound its own space in the frequency spectrum. First I want to skim through all the tracks and see if anything is at minus infinity, because that should not have been the case after we did gain staging in last session. And I can clearly see that all the sliders are here and there, but nothing at minus infinity. That's the important bit that I'm looking at. I think everything is good, nothing is muted. Okay, now we can give it a listen how it is, but I would like to also do some of the things right from the start. This is our melodic elements group. I shall just expand them all. Would like to throw in EQ it, and what I would like to do is I would like to see the frequency analyzer working here when the melodic group is playing. Most probably I would cut off the lows from the melodic group, because there are high chances of some of the sounds like drone or probably organ contributing to lows, and when the lows from this track layer up with the lows from kick and bass, they just increase the level on the meter. They are not contributing to the lows as we desire in the track. So it is good to just do a EQ cleanup by probably having a soft low cut instead of going 4x. Or I think I would just go with a harsher EQ curve when it comes to low cut, and I would probably go up to let's say around 400 hertz or so. We don't have any acoustic guitarish kind of live played sounds here, for which we need to preserve the bass frequencies, so we can all the sounds that are here are coming more or less from VSTs. So let's just give it a listen and on the fly put our low cut accordingly. You see a lot of the sound from drone is at low end itself. When I disable this first filter for low cut, the drone sound really pops up, otherwise it doesn't. So I think instead of giving it a low cut, it's better to give it a low shelf and just go a bit too harsh. Or we can do a combination. I can do a low cut here, somewhere deep here, and I can do a low shelf for this, something like this. And again, we will listen and do it. Since this is a bit of a precise EQ work, I'm putting solo on the melodic group. Then we will again listen to the whole thing with context with respect to rest of the track, and then we'll fine tune as needed. For now, let me just disable first pointer, or we'll add that later, yes, as needed. Also, next step would be to put in sidechain, but I think before that I would go to bass here, bass group, and I would do kind of opposite of what I did with melody group. Again, in bass, we would need some of the mids as characteristic of our mid bass, this acid bass track, but we won't be needing lots of highs. So we will just audition what's going on in frequency spectrum and we will put on a high shelf accordingly. Now, this is an interesting thing. When we go and put this high cut, or I think I shall rather change this to what I did with melody group. First have a high shelf and then at the end go for high cut. The thing is, as we move and we change the cue as well as how sharp curve our curve here is, high shelf here is, it will lose some of the characteristic of the EQ, because as you can see, the frequency bands that are being created here, they have that top and roughness to them, which usually you also attain after putting a saturator on any of the bass frequencies. So we would need to be very careful. It has to be balanced. We need to create a high shelf, but at the same time we also need to preserve some of the characteristic of that original acidic sound. One more important thing is, while we are doing this, I think it is also important that we throw in a glue compressor before this EQ on this bass track. And my favorite, if I go to this section of my how I have put things in Ableton, if I go to the waves area, I have things color coded. So for example, for glue compression, I would have certain, compressors I would go through, and these are tried and tested compressors, emulation of analog compressors that are mostly, go to for a lot of folks in the industry. For example, I'll just throw in SSLG channel and see if I need to go through its filters or anything. But I think since we are simply wanting to put some glow, I can either go through glue compressor that Ableton gives us inbuilt. Yeah, I think that would be a good choice. And you can go to dynamics. You have to go right here. You can go to dynamics and audio effects, and then we have glue compressor. I will just throw its emulation here at the bottom of our track. Now for this particular glue compressor, this is working on our bass tracks. I would want that attack to be quick. Now this attack is minus 0.1 would be fine. Release I can leave to automatic. Ratio I just need it to be very subtle, so I would keep a ratio of 2. Threshold we would adjust as we go, and makeup we'll see if we need to put in some of the makeup thing. If it clips, we can choose soft clipping, but I would not want that. I don't want that top and grit out of this glue compressor. And dry wet, I think we will go with 100%. So I would just hit play on the bass tracks. It is soloed right now, and we'll see. Now about makeup, we can see that our glue compressor is moving very slowly, which is I think is a good sign of a subtle compressor. If we imagine waveforms, it won't be jumping all over the place. It would be going very subtly, which is fine in terms of shaping the sound here. So we can see it's barely going to 1.5 dB. So maybe it's a good idea to add a dB of makeup gain here, roughly a dB. Yeah, that's fine. Better to be on the, yeah, we can just let the range be, and we'll keep the dry as 100%. In between, we can just switch to different release settings as well as different ratio settings to see what happens. The thing is, when we go to a ratio of 4:1, I think we'll have to play with the threshold to make it go deeper, or we'll have to play with the release. But I think initially, as I intended to keep it very subtle and have a ratio of 2:1 compression, I think we will stick with that. I think I would be happy with those glue compression and EQ settings on the bass channel, because that makes the bass audible enough. Bass, I think I have heard a lot of pros say this: the bass is supposed to be felt more than heard. So I think it fits right through that window of being felt rather than being heard out there in your face. So let's quickly move to other sections. We have touched with some basic EQing on our melodic and bass elements. Effects elements, obviously we can let them be where they are. Ear candy, I would not want to, put in any EQ or anything, because sometimes we have some of the effects which is having impact, and some of the stuff that has plenty of low end build up, and it carries that weight of the sound, and it would be a bad idea to EQ ear candy up. They are anyways momentary sounds. What I would like to do in here, I know that my drums are not having kick. What I would like to do here is I would like to go in. You can see on the drum rack there is already a bass mono at 100 hertz and a utility being thrown. What I would like to do here is I would like to go to drum section. Now there are a lot of ways to process drums. One of the interesting things that we are going to do is put in a return channel in which there would be a rack. If I show you racks that I have created and put in handy, you can see these are some of the master racks from my previous projects. Then there is this tech house drum rack. Basically this is a drum rack, for processing, giving us that initial idea generation during production stage. But here in the mixing stage, I would be needing this ghost drums rack. This is a rack that I would be throwing in a return channel, and this rack basically gives me a combination of plugins that give me subtle ghost drums coming in from the background. For usage and setup of this particular thing, I would go near here towards the bottom of this empty space. I would go and click insert, and I would rename this using Control R, and I would put in ghost drums. This is my return track A, and I would just throw in my ghost drums rack here. You see, this is my ghost drum rack, and if I just show you the devices that I have a hybrid reverb, I have a delay, I have a this rhythm triangulation LFO, then I have a saturator coloring the sound very subtly, and I have, while I created this rack once, I put in some time to, you know, map the controls to these knobs. Then I have some EQ, because in my ghost drums I don't want much of the lows or much of the highs. I want them to sit between certain frequency band. Then I have utility at the end, again mapped through these. Now what I can do is I can send my drum rack, again that I'll choose whether I'll have to send the, you see here I have in my drum section, I think I can just uh, collapse these tracks that I don't need to work right now. These loops and these drum racks, I have two different groups here. What I can do, I can choose whether I'll be sending this particular drum rack to the ghost drums thing or these loops, or I can send all of them to ghost drum sound. But the perspective here is, in this loops track I have already kept gain pretty low compared to what I have for these. This drum rack is dominating this loops group, so I think I would send this drum rack to the return track, and I would then configure a ghost drums thing accordingly. So the task here is I would solo drums. What at this point I would do is I would send almost 100% to return track A. Then I would go into this ghost drums track, and I would adjust these levels by ear. What is the level of ghost drums? What is the reverb decay time? What is the ghost time? And this is delay time, I believe. This is feedback for delay, and this is groove chop, or basically how rhythm triangle this particular device is working. And then there is width. Width is basically coming in from this macro. So let's give it a go. We can see the ghost time parameter of the macro here gives us how delayed is the whole groove. So depending on every individual track's BPM and the groove that tops are creating, I think this varies. So around this setting right now, I'm finding it bit more laid back and coming back at much slower pace than being too tight. So it is subjective to what we want to achieve. And just at times to understand how this whole rack is giving us output, it's handy to solo this return track up while letting everything else play intact, so that we can get an idea what it is contributing to the original drum rack. We would like to keep the reverb decay as quick as possible because we don't want a lot of reverb tail from these ghost drums to be mudding everything up. But 100 ms of reverb decay is very short, 1/10 of a second, and it's very quick, but I think it helps. Now what we can do is we can adjust the send amount as per the feel. What we can also do is, for once, we can just try and see how sending the whole thing, whole of this drums group, which means the drum rack as well as the loops put together, to this return track of ghost drums gives us the result. Yeah, so we have a very short reverb decay, so I think we can send the whole drums group back to this Ghost Drums return track and have it contribute back to drum stops as Ghosts. Now we are done with the on kick. We will just give it a quick, you know, I believe in picking good kick sample right from the start when I'm working on a remix rather than processing it a lot. But I would still see if it needs a knock, a slight EQ adjustment at certain frequencies to make it cut through. I think what we can do is we can just quickly throw in a saturator, probably like from Fab Filter, and just find a preset that kind of gives us, bit of a you know, what maybe Saturn do. We need something that helps with handling the kick. I think what we need is something that just gives us a little bit of punch on that kick. So while we have things like radiator saturators that really help with the case, I think shaper box can also be utilized. Saturn, we have tried, but I think I can just go to one of the Waves plugins, probably one knob or something. The idea here is to just give us a little bit of, or we can go to any of the transient shapers. So just search trans, go to plugins, and you have Transx wide mono, Transx multi mono. I think multi is for multi-band, wide is for wide single band. I would go with wide mono. I would throw it here, and you can see they have a lot of presets in there, So let's see what the kick presets hold. We can quickly see it is adding bit of a, without doing much. By default, this preset is adding some of the top knock to the kick, and we can see the difference as we switch on and off between this particular Transx wide mono plugin, and we can see how it affects our kick in real time in the frequency analyzer. I think I would definitely use this transient shaper. I believe there are some of the other transient shapers that I've used in past, but right now they're just slipping my mind. I think some saturators can give us this too, and then EQing can definitely give us this, but I think transient shaper is the cleanest way. I remember using some of the transient shapers. I think, yeah, this Smack Attack is a good plugin in terms of shaping the transient. Yes, this is what I have used in past. This is pretty good, and we can just go through drums section of this preset browser. And you can see kick. There are some of the plugins for shaping kick. We will do what we have done earlier. We would just throw this plugin in and we'll see how it is affecting in terms of what we hear as well as what we see. Initially, we would like to let the settings of the preset be as they were, and then we will change if needed. I think at this range it is adding a very subtle uh, attack to the kick. It's giving me some of the sustain as well, but I think what I can do is I can reduce the sustain. I don't want that sustain. I just want some of the initial attack from the kick because my kick is very thick as is. It is also very handy to see how it is shaping the transient life. I think the preset on its own was working much better. I think I fucked up by just touching these edits, by touching these settings. What this is doing, this is decreasing the sustain to -20. So you can see it's, consistently making our kick much shorter. What we'll do is we'll do the on off thing as we go ahead, and I think right now it's giving me some of the clipping on kick. So I think I would have to either limit it from within the plugin or decrease its output. With every hit, it's clipping. You can see true peak clippings rising. Whenever we are working with audio effects or plugins, we don't want them to be changing the gain of our audio signal because we have worked on setting that gain at a certain level. If we are decreasing it here, we are essentially changing the whole effort we have put in gain staging. What I can also do at this stage is change the dry wet level for this particular transient shaping preset and then see how it works for me. You see on this meter of Ableton Live, it would appear fine. It won't appear clipping because as per the signal chain, it's appearing right through here. Then from the fader, we are decreasing it down, but in general, it is anyway giving us that clipping thing. And I think it's not a good idea to let it clip. Maybe I'm just OCD about it, but I don't like when my audio signals clip. So I think we'll have to control that. Now a limiter can soften things up. We don't want that to happen. So I think what we can do is decrease this output here, keep the guard at off, and at the same time just decrease dry and wet to make this effect work in parallel. It will work as parallel processing without creating the whole chains and everything. You can see the true peak here is sitting just under 0 dB, so it's not clipping, but at the same time our dry wet is at 70. For this plugin, let's try, for this preset, let's try to throw it all the way to 100 and see how it affects. I don't like how this is making my kicks sound. Yeah, this sounds immediately better to our ears because it is increasing the whole peak by around 7 dBs. So it's just loudness effect, but it's not good. I think we really get to understand what this is doing to our sound when our true peak, or basically when our signal is all at almost the same level as it was before processing. So if it's just making it louder, doesn't mean it's making it better. Yeah, I think I'm fine with this. And what I would also like to do is I would like to do Control Z, delete span, not smack attack. And yeah, let's quickly see. So what I would like to do at this point is just go to EQ 8 and bring in a high cut that's not too harsh on the kick. I don't want a lot of highs coming out of the kick. I think what we can also do to make this kick perceived louder without filling up our meters too fast is we can, use serial compression, because right now if you see the kick is jumping a lot here up and down, but that kind of serial compression kills dynamics of the track. Right now this kick is not saturated or compressed or anything, but instead of going into that much of details, we'll see if we really need it. I don't think I would want to compress the kick and make it lifeless. Let's just go forward in rest of the steps and not be too lost in just shaping the kick, because there is no limit to this kind of minor tweaking. So on our drums, right now we have put in glue compression on our bass. We have put in sidechain on our main bass, but not on acid bass. I think best approach is to just move it to bass track. Once this is done compressing, EQing, then we can throw this kickstart too, as we set in previous session. I think we have lost plenty of time in just tweaking the kick, which was pointless. just need to quickly process our vocals, that two main vocals as well as pad vocals. And at this stage, I think we can just throw Philvox 1 and Philvox 2 out of this group so that we can, glue compress these vocals with very subtle effect like we did earlier. And we'll see what and we would want ideally just up to 2 dBs of. Let's just see how this works. We don't want this to make the needle of compressor move a lot, because we don't want too much of compressor working on this, because what it does, it brings the original vocal track and the pad vox track, and more the needle moves means more it tries to equate both the layers. But while gain staging, we have set them on a certain level so they are correlative to each other. If we make them both kind of equally loud using a glue compressor, that is counterproductive to what we did there. So idea right now is to just make them subtly come closer to each other in terms of their gain and levels through glue compression, but not a lot. So we would try to keep it within 2 dBs. I think I'm satisfied with my glue compression with that. Now what I would like to do is give these vocals a bit of characteristic shine and bit of maybe that top and shimmer and everything. So what I would like to do for that is I would just throw in a Pro Q3 and I would see how things work for them. I would also like to throw in a kickstart too and make these vocals go a bit pumping wherever we can do that, either using the kick or we can just keep it synced to 1/4 of our host tempo. So let's go one by one. First of all, I'm going to configure kickstart to make the vocals pump, and yeah, then I think I can go to, I think it's better to just put back Philvox 1 and 2 back into this, because we can see when Philvox 1 and 2 are working, there is no other vocal change, so it won't affect our glue compressor much. So but it would be handy for this kickstart 2 and Pro Q3 to be working together. Whatever settings we are dialing in, they can work for others as well, and if needed, we can automate the rest. Can already feel the pulsating effect of a sidechain, the classic sidechain effect, and I think it is already pretty subtle, so I don't need to dial down the mix here, but let's see. Also, when we work on this kickstart too, I would like to automate device on and off just before this where it says hackathon. So I would like to put this back to, you know, we just grab this and turn this off, so that it doesn't act when it says hackathon and just before the drop. There's no pumping there. Yeah, so the pumping effect is not working when we are dropping it into the drop. Do we have anything here similar? Let's listen. Similarly, we need to quickly set up a side chain with respect to kick. With respect to kick after its effects. Will I route it to audio? Maybe 100%, yes. And no, we would like the pumping effect to come in classically on the entire melodic track. It gives the track that classic sidechain pump overall. Yeah, I would like this on melodic chain to be exaggerated. Fine with that, absolutely fine with that. For the drums, there are a lot of sounds that come almost with kick. Times you'll have your clap coming in with the kick. At times you may have something else coming in with the kick, right on the downbeat or the upbeat. So if you put sidechain on the drum rack, that might not be the best idea. But what we can do here is we can sidechain it through audio by inputting our kick, and then we can throw in this setting of band to be under 100 200 hertz. Then just we can put in a quick chain so that it's very short, so that it just avoids that transient clash for any other sound with respect to drums. Although there are a lot of snappy sounds which you would want along with the clap, that's why here we are making this kickstart to side chaining operate only under 200 hertz and not above it. I think we are done with basic side chaining, basic EQing, gain staging we did already. We have done some of the transient shaping of the kick. We have tried some glue compression on bass and vocal elements. I think it's time to go take a look what we can do with EQing of our vocal group. One thing I would also like to do here is I would throw in a good reverb, like probably, uh, what we can do is, while we have a lot of reverbs, I think the depth control, etc., that we get in FabFilter Pro R is just amazing. I would rename this as universal reverb, and this will work as send B, and then we'll see how this works. And then I would also like to insert a return track and call it probably delay. And in terms of delay, I would like to go to waves H delay. Where is it? H delay stereo. Now we would like to go to any of the classic basic ping pong thing, and can go to BPM host, and I would not, we can have it triple or dotted, 1/4 dotted or 1 by triple. And what's the feedback setting, like 65? We'll see how to touch that bit and adjust that based on when we give some sense through it. And first of all, let's go to universal reverb here, and like so we need to set up a reverb that works for everything that we want to send to. For example, we would probably want to send a bit of the drum tops, some of the tracks like hi-hats or something, through this reverb to not make them too dry. Again, sending stuff through this reverb would be a, something that we'll do on the fly. And right now we'll just have to pick a reverb that gives us a very subtle reverb vibe, and not something which is now the entire, one thing that I really love about this particular plugin is it has a lot of controls which really gives you what you are trying to achieve. There are presets, but then these controls are very handy as well. How, whether you want it to be dark or bright, what should be the character, what should be the distance, the feel that reverb is giving. Then obviously there is space or reverb timing that determines how much of a depth this whole reverb block would be taking up. There is decay rate, how you want it to tail down, stereo width, and things like that. But I think right now I would just go with a small reverb, probably a rich room, and then I would adjust things accordingly. I don't want it to be bright, I want my reverb to be a bit darker. Can be lively, distance can be midways, it has to be short, yes. Decay rate is 100%, it has to be spacious, mix is 100% because it is a return track. Let pre-delay be as is, and AS. Yes, this is a universal reverb. We have set some basics of it as is. Now what we need to do is, first of all, go to the vocals group. And now one more thing, for the vocals, instead of using a send, I would probably throw in a reverb directly here and adjust its dry wet ratio to see how much I want to mix the reverb in. But let's just quickly see what our vocals need in terms of EQing and other things. I think around this frequency range, 100 and something, we can, use a dynamic plus 3 dB and just turn the gain down to 0 and let this frequency be as is, so that it gives us dynamic gain, temporary gain boost of around 3 dB on this bell curve. This was sitting very well with Udit Narayan's voice here. This also creates a bit of a presence, although we can achieve that using much of the higher end of the spectrum, but this one gives more liveliness to the vocals. This one makes them more heard. Although we are going for overall a dark vibe onto the track, but we still need vocals to cut through. Now what we'll do is we'll add just a bit of high end shimmer to this. Again, I would want it to be dynamic and we would keep it +6. We are going above 1000 hertz, but I would want this frequency to be roughly around 8000. I think this one, instead of keeping dynamic, we can simply increase its gain to roughly 2 or maybe even 3 dB. One thing that we have to note here is we have this pad box, and when we increase the highs, this pad box is cutting through a bit too louder. It's giving its prominent robotic effect to the vocals. I'm not adjusting anything on that right now, but maybe later on we'll need to. Now what we can do is just throw in a bit of reverb this particular track, and we would see how this give us bit of vocal reflections probably. And I'm going to make it a bit darker, leave it, yeah, let's leave everything intact and see. Then we'll play with maybe mix ratio. I just need to give these vocals bit of a overall, bit of effect through maybe just work with any of the waves plugins, which gives this these are some of the default presets in this Silk vocal by Waves, and it will adjust some of the parameters. So let's just give it a go and see how it affects our vocal. whatever this plugin is doing, but this is definitely working on this particular vocal. Let's just go through bit of where is the waves bundle. Like, you know, we have some of the plugins like CLA, which gives us multiple effects within a single preset. It has a bass, treble, compress, reverb, delay, and pitch. And then maybe, yeah, they have a lot of. Let's see. My bad. It is compressing the shit out of vocals. My bad to throw something like this on this, or maybe I just need to. Can I really change the mix? I don't see the setting to dial dry wet within this, and I don't want to go through the whole process of setting up a parallel chain and then throwing this. There used to be one more plugin group apart from CLA, Greg Wells, I guess. Yes, GW. Now I want GW voice centric stereo. I think this is simply giving us some doubling effect, some reverb. So essentially this is all a hit and try. What we need to do here, yeah, JJP, yes. I hope I get a not too much in my face kind of a vocal preset in this, and then we can tweak that a little bit. We are eyeballing so that this master level is corresponding to almost the same level before this here, and this here and this here is almost matching. That is our goal here. Then we will see whether we need to put in DSR, whether we need to increase lows, highs, or we need to increase compression. I think it's subtly compressing, and we shall not, you know, play with that a lot right now. I think we are good with that. We just need to throw in another stance of EQ, or probably just throw this EQ at the end and configure if we need to make any changes into this, you know. I think the real problem comes when we have female vocals coming in. Whatever settings we have dialed in for the male vocals are not clearly working for the female vocals. Right now, I want those hi-hats that are coming in too harsh to be thrown back to the universal reverb track. And I think that is the case with these three hats. So you see, we don't want them to be going through the ghost drums because the whole drum track is going through, but I think we would want the send on B to be somewhere in that range. Let's hear. Best to go with them one by one. Leaving the closed head to as is because it's only coming to accentuate. I think better is to go for universal reverb with the closed hat and open hat track, this first one and this third one. And then at the same time we can, you know, go for the vocals, main walks, and try and give pad walks bit of delay. I think we would also need to go into the delay track, solo it up, and then see how we can dial the settings down. That's classic time stretching effect when trying to change this delay time while the track is being played. Yeah, so what it gives us a nice delay tail. What I would want to do with this is would probably put it to 1.8 dotted, and then I would sidechain this delay signal to this track's original signal so that this delay doesn't come in when the original is going on. And this delay I have thrown in specifically for vocals. I think I would let these settings sit here And after that, what I would do is just put in a typical compressor here. Click on sidechain, take audio from main walk, post effects, no EQ in this, ratio 4:1, attacks real quick, release auto, threshold will see, and work it on RMS instead of peak, drive at 100%, look ahead of 10 ms. That's it. Right now, because we have such short delay, this is not giving us desired results. It is only giving us gain reduction, which we can anyway do by decreasing the delay effect. But what can we actually do to, make it? I think the idea to have a delay tail is not right. We can just make it work like a slapback delay on 1/8. Something like this, and then we can have it very lightly mixed in. Instead of having the send at 0, we can just dial it down a lot. So it's right there somewhere deep in the mix, but it's not coming in your face straight up. What we can also do is we can throw bit of a reverb on this, and again, my bad to put in a typical reverb. I would like to go to Pro R for this purpose, FF filter. I would again throw that reverb in here, and I would make that ambient. Let's just leave it as is, mix it 100%, and see how this reverb is coming in on top of this delay. You see, this reverb is coming in very subtly. It's not coming in too loud, which is exactly what we want. And it's clean as well, because there is anyway a delayed sound. We don't want this to have certain chorus. We can push it down far a bit. We can increase its space a bit. Decay rate can be as is. And then let's see how this works in the mix. Now I would not want to saturate or anything with vocals. I think I can leave them as is. To me, they are just fine right now. There is some harshness somewhere in the vocal mix. So what I would do in this case is I would just solo this. I would turn on this little headphone icon, which basically lets me audition the audio band. I would make this bell and I would sharpen the Q, not a lot, but just a little bit like this. Like to exaggerate this to maybe 9 dBs or so, yeah. Then I will sweep through to figure out which frequency is really sticking out as too harsh, and then I would leave my filter right there and I would turn down the gain value to negative. That way I can take off some of the harsh frequencies. If we increase the Q too much right now, it won't give us perspective, because a lot of bass frequencies or additional frequencies can appear as too harsh. I think what we are doing in Pro Q3 just before this, we need to counter operate that to minus 2 dB, maybe minus 1 dB, and then raise it by 3 dBs, because or probably need to get Q a bit more subtle, because I think that is what is contributing to harshness here. We're in a very difficult situation here, because if we take off these frequencies, we are losing some of the characteristic of the fundamentals, but if we let them stay as in, we are getting some harshness. think I'm decently satisfied with the mix so far. We have our sidechain setup, we have basic EQing done. Now on the drums, I can use a bit of a magic in terms of saturation or something, you know, just to make them stick out a bit. So what we can do, we can go to Saturn 2 and we can go at the top drums, and then we'll clearly find a bit of, uh, uh, we can dial in settings that go very well for drums. So let's just see what we can get for, or maybe instead of, and do we can throw in a dedicated plugin that works well with drums, like from waves we can throw in bit of vintage exciter. Now the thing is, we have to be very careful with, uh with the mix percentage of this. What we'll have to do, we'll have to AB in terms of this, we'll play with these settings later on. And we don't want any mains. Noise, analog noise, we can keep the noise off as well. Let's adjust the output. This is our AX mix, FX vintage exciter mix. So this more or less works like drive at knob here in this case. We can also do at this point is try some of the other plugins that we have to, just give our drums a bit of oomph, bit of top end. So let's just go through these presets one by one. I think it's best if we just solo in kick, bass and drums for this purpose. Too much dirt on that one. For some reason, the AX mix is disabled on this preset. Wow, crazy. I think we'll have to use some of these subtler presets on this so that it just adds a little bit of crispiness to drums instead of making them go bonkers. While it's almost pretty late for me, the thing right now is I think I'm pretty close to calling it a day in terms of mixing stuff, and I think I'm very close to mastering as well. And what I like to do in the mastering stage, I don't like to play with a lot of settings. I rather prefer to, keep it very clean, just have an overall EQ match with some of the standards. I'll show you what I use for matching the EQ, etc. What I also like to do at this stage is just keep an eye out for this, frequency spectrum and see what I'm getting at, where I'm getting it. So what I'll also like to do at this stage is, just see which of these melodic elements are sticking out too much into my face and just throw them back to some of the universal reverb, because right now a lot of elements are coming right at our face, and if we need to push them down a little bit into the mix, we have to give some reverb, and nothing better than using the send track B universal reverb for that purpose. Okay, fine. I think what we need to do right now is just give a nice little audition right from the finish to start to the whole track, and then see what do we need to adjust it masters. Right now I have put everything on plus 6 dB so that it's audible well on the YouTube live stream thing. If I go to my racks here, I have some of the master racks that I have recently used on my previous remixes. Recently for Yaad Aa Raha Hai, I did a mastering rack, then I saved master rack from another tracks as well. Then there are some of the other master racks. So what I can do, I can just throw them in and see what all elements I'm using. But before that, I would like to audition the track without any plugins or anything on my master except these basics. I would like to keep this handy. Would like to change the mode to master, and let's see how it sounds right from the start to the end. Let's reset all the meters. I think I need to, uh, increase this particular thing on the sides, like maybe by 2 dB, everything that is around 7K plus. And I don't need to have any dynamic range. I can statically increase 2 dBs on the sides for the melodic elements. Similarly, I can do what? I can just control drag this onto drums, and I can do the same thing for sides of drums. At the end of it all, what we would also like to do, we would like to pan things a little bit to the left and to the right. So I think we can do that. What we need to do that for is I would need to see what all elements are running in parallel. Open head and closed head are running in parallel. So visually speaking, if a drummer was sitting right in front of our face, most probably they'll have open hat and closed hat very much close to each other, right? So wherever we pan them together. If we pan this maybe 8 to the right, we pan this one also 8 to the right, and this one slightly away from that, 5 to the right, accentuate one. Now claps can go to the left, then probably a bit too extreme one, and the one subtle snare goes right where our hats are, just close to them. Rim click again goes pretty much to the left. Conga can again go heavily to the left. Wood one can go heavily to the right. Perk one can be somewhere mid between left and right. Yeah, this is a very intuitive step. Now these, I don't think I would want to pan these. Now let's come to melodic. See what's running consistently. For example, let's go to drop B, and okay, let's go to drop A. We see this pluck, the organ, swell strings, arp, and drone. Drone shall be setting in the center ideally. Now if I'm putting an arp a bit to the left and to put a strings a bit to the right, then shimmer is coming in only on the first, let it be. Then we have organ and plucks. We have thrown them around 11 and around 9, so let's keep these two midway, just slightly left, just slightly right. Creates a bit of a space in terms of the stereo imaging. Drums we are already done with. Vocals and kick and bass will sit on the center, so will be the case for ear candy. That's it, we are done with that bit. Let's hear things right from the breakdown again. I think I have to go for mastering, either a quick master right now, or I think it's better if we go for a quick master right now and just finish this whole thing off. I think our kick, the low end, is eating up a lot of space here. The true peak of mids was minus 2.5, and for the sides it was minus 12.9. So this is what is going to create a lot of trouble for us. What we can also do in here is we have at mids around 1 dB of, we can create another one here and place it in stereo at sides, then match its frequency to be somewhere around maybe 1500 hertz. We can simply increase its gain by 2 dB, just to make it a bit more gradual, just to make everything a bit more louder on the sides. But since we are making this track for clubs, it's okay to have a heavier low end. I think right now what we can do, instead of waiting for another session, let's set our limit to 10 to 15 minutes. What I can do, I can quickly pick any of the previously used, I have decreased this gain down here to 0 dB because I don't want that. And yeah, I've done some of the changes in Pro Q3 here just to cut off everything under 30 hertz. I think I might probably change this to even 40 hertz. Yeah, That's fine. Everything under 40 hertz is cut off through a brick wall low cut filter. And on the sides, I'm pushing things up dynamically. Around 1500s on the sides, I'm having slight gain. And for the mids, I am again having a dynamic gain of 1 or 1.5 dB. After that, I can, just hit Control S on this project quickly, and I can also just click on File, collect all and save, and yes, so that it saves all the samples, bounces, etc., etc. at right place. Right now we can see it's loading CPU at around 39%, and this will increase significantly as soon as we throw in the master deck. Yes, sorry about that, but the great thing about throwing in this master rack is it gives me yeah, I think let's just go through these one by one. And what I have done here in utility, it's doing here with utility this, so we can delete the old utility. And second plugin is a smart EQ3, which basically here is checking using AI, or just what you call machine learning, how you would want this, how you would want EQ to be, and has some of the factory profiles. We have thrown this on master, so let's reset everything and just give it a go once again. And I think we'll just give in a loop here. We want our master to be actively looking for the drop loop perfectly. Then we'll see. I think this is a learn smart filter button, which will help this particular smart EQ plugin. I think this one's by Sonable, to learn things smartly. And it has learned and applied a correction curve. I think if we have to quickly do things, we'll have to just go through everything in terms of quickly configuring the presets as they are. Now here I would like to go and change this to relearn. I don't want this to be bright, I don't want this to be warm, I want this to be neutral. When I click on relearn, it will ask me to play and learn everything. So this is what it is doing. These are subtle things. I mean, nothing goes here for this. It's just, cutting our sub bass significantly, which we have tried to do through Pro Q3 as well, but that's the case with audio. Your plugins have a digital. Okay, for Pro Q3, I think I should just, yeah, that's just a spectrum analyzer and external is off. I think we can just, we can just keep this as is. And I think we shall hit relearn again while our drop is playing. And it just mostly is subtly touching some of the parameters of our EQ, but is mostly not doing much of the changes. Okay, this is a mix declutter setting, linear phase, medium. We can change it to high because we still have plenty of resources. Let's see how it affects our mix. I think we need to make it go a little less steep because right now it's making our track a bit too thin. I think even if bypass this particular Pro Q3 is not needed, I don't need to declutter the mix right there. Let's go to the next plugin, which is CLA3A, a classic compressor, and its preset is Unity No Comp, which basically is as transparent of a compression as possible. We'd have to adjust gain and peak reduction values to see so that it gives us a very subtle minus 1 to 2 dBs of compression probably. I think first parameter that I need to reduce is go to the peak reduction here, make it 0, and then I have to go in and change the gain here again. We are already clipping. You see, we are clipping already, so we need to go gentle on the gain here. And let's hear it again. Then we have Quick Child, which basically gives us a characteristic of a Quick Child compressor right here. And again, we'll go very subtle on this compression. The idea of these chain of compressors and limiters is to slowly increase the overall RMS loudness of our track while still keeping the peak in control. So the process basically is to gently keep adding to the loudness while still avoiding clipping. Towards the end, we'll push some of the limiters a bit harder to give us a loud master, but you'll see I don't throw out very loud masters on SoundCloud or YouTube. I like to still preserve the dynamics as much as possible. Now looking at this SSL GEQ, this is again another emulation of SSL desk EQs. The idea here is, I think what we are doing, if you look at, we are just subtly touching up the low frequencies around 450 hertz, and then we are subtly touching low mids around 1.42, and yeah, with a value of 1.42 for the bell curve, and frequency around 2 kilohertz. High mids are untouched here, high frequencies are tamed down. So let's adjust this as per our frequency spectrum on the go. Again, when we move into another compressor, we'll have to be careful of our makeup gain here right now, and then this is going on for a TAC of 10 ms and ratio of 4:1, mixes at 100%. We'll have to adjust threshold and makeup as per our audio levels. Now comes the loudness game. We are entering into the limiting stage. We have a couple of limiters thrown in here, and then at the end of it all we have a master plan which basically just gently does some final taming of our master. Before that we have a couple of limiters, L3 ultra maximizer by waves and pro L2 by FF filter. I think we should really speed up the process right now and work towards generating our final master out. Because we have our out ceiling at 0 and our threshold this level, we are getting. I'm wondering if we have Julian loudness meter now. Then I guess I can get a loudness meter from waves. Then I remember some WLM meter or something like that from waves. CS. I think WLM plus stereo is that's the same thing. Yeah. And yeah, it gives us plenty of options. You see, if I throw in a SoundCloud as a plugin, and it'll give me the long term, the short term, and a range, and plenty of other details that we may need at the end of it all. And for now, we'll just focus on loudness, and we can go back to span later on. We can turn off the span from here and just focus on loudness. So as we enter L3 ultra maximizer and we see what happens with loudness here. Here we won't be clipping because we anyway have our out ceiling at 0 dB, so it would only go and peak up to 0 dB, but we need to look at short term and long term loudness through WLM plus stereo. What this is telling is this is like way too loud for SoundCloud. The short term, long terms are still fine, but the short term is way too loud, so we may need to push our loudness slightly lesser. If you look at things right now, it tells us that our range, which is our dynamics, are only 3 LU. So that means we are compressing or limiting too hard. So let's go further gentle on this threshold value here. Our ceiling is already set to 0. So let's just see. We are peaking at around minus 1.0, which means we still have a scope of pushing this gently further. So what we'll do, we'll go to Pro L2 and gain here, which is minus, we'll push it to only plus 1.5. We have oversampling at its highest, very CPU incentive. We're going to see a bit of lag when we hit play and when this thing starts working. Problem is right now we are pretty much going by the book, keeping it under minus 14 short term LUFS, we are not making our master too loud. But the thing is, SoundCloud is flooded with super loud masters for DJs. So we may have to give in to a bit of that and push our Ultra Maximizer as well as Pro L2 a little too hard. And then we set its true peak to 0.0 dB TP. Now let's just see how this works. Then we'll start dialing in our master plan. I think I'll need to reduce the levels slightly lesser for my audio interface. We can go louder, but it is getting muddier with that loud. It's not giving that, it's not giving any of the valuable loudness. It's just making things loud without being effective. I think at this point we are fine with the idea of uh, yeah, it won't let us push this further. So at this point we can just drag it from intro to the end and just hit Control Shift R. Ask us what do you want to process. We want to process master, yes, and I don't want PCM, which means I don't want wave. I only want MP3 at a constant bit rate of 320. Dither settings, bit depth, etc. were already checked in our limiters, and we need to quickly check if we have any other setting on. No. What we are going to do is we are going to click export. It's going to ask us, and yes, we are going to say Talatum 828 imager dot mp3 because that's it. I think I don't think we are just going to give it Salatum 128 and A. That's it. That's all we need. Yeah. Let's just hit save and it will export the track for us. Once we are done exporting, what we are going to do to make the whole process faster is we are going to disable all the plugins in a master chain, master rack, and then save that master rack with the name of current track, so that when we work on next remix we can load up this rack and then we can quickly work our way through to finish the master. It took us, I think, roughly more than 2 hours today to finish up EQing and then grouping stuff back for some of the processing, and then side chaining things, and then putting some compression here and there. We haven't gone extreme on any compression. Then we have tried to add some ghost drums through return track. We have tried to add some universal reverb. We have tried to add a bit of delay on vocals with the reverb on top of all that. And at the end of it all, we have tried to quickly run through the master rack and tweak our preset settings a little bit here and there. So I think after end of it all, it's worth all the effort. The whole point is about getting immersed in the process and enjoying it. Let's see how the master turns out. I think we'll probably listen to the master later tomorrow, because right now the ears would be pretty much tired. So I think that's it for today's live session, and I think this rendering will finish itself in a couple of more minutes. And I could say that we are done with all the sessions for this particular remix. Idea for next remix would be probably an ongoing pop hit track running on the charts, or probably something from Yo-Yo Honey Singh. He has released plenty of amazing tracks recently, so maybe we can pick something up and go about remixing that pretty soon, or maybe something from Karan Aujla or Diljit Dosanjh. I'm just having a lot of ideas going on in my mind about what to remix next. Let's see. Let's see what we end up working on, and I'll probably again live stream the next track from the very beginning of the process. We'll go from the scratch, so the whole remixing may take, without any edits, obviously this is all raw footage, that may take around 5-6 sessions. Once again, we went pretty slow on this track for multiple reasons. We had some key and harmonic and scale issues initially figuring out when we changed pitch, and yeah, so here we are. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just disable this, or what I can also do, I can, so this works as a single operation. I can disable this. You see, when I disable this, you should keep an eye out for this meter and disable this. dims down to 12 or 13% immediately. Whatever plugins we have on groups, those are the plugins that are, I can just hit save here, and then it will ask me what this is. So I can just say this is Tala Master Rack. What happened with my Tala Master Rack? Because it's way past midnight, and I can just color code it to racks, and it will then start appearing here. Yeah, that's good. Then we can just hit Control S on this project and call it a day. I think it's time to close live stream. Bye bye, have a good night.